Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast, everyone. Figured I'd do another drive cast. Just got off work. It was an alright night. We had only 3 people. We're short-staffed. But yeah, so a little wore out from that. I had something weird happen tonight. I got some crab dip because I was hungry. And I don't know, man, there was like some green stuff growing in it. So, yeah, now I'm starving. But I got some bruschetta at the house. So, it's like an Italian dish. It's diced tomato, onion, basil, garlic, Parmesan. It's good stuff. But I had wanted to share a couple paranormal stories. So I listened to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm actually wearing their shirt today. And he put out a video, not his last video, but the video before his last. Check out his channel. He's a podcast. It's they cover everything like cryptids, ufology, ghost, dogman. They cover a lot of dogman. Just anything weird and stuff, cursed items, stuff like that. But he put out a video, and it was just like a 20-minute video, basically, of this dude, Scott Mardis, apparently passed away. And the only time I'd ever heard of this dude was actually listening to Paranormal Roundtable. And the dude basically covers like water cryptids, which isn't really that big in the whole cryptozoology like community and crypto hunters and stuff. They usually go after more of like the typical ones like dogman or squatch or, you know, skunk ape, stuff like that. The land-based ones. And I ain't gonna lie, I've always been interested in more of the sea creature ones, because I remember growing up and, you know, like but seeing newspaper articles of like creatures that were prehistoric and should have been dead, that have washed on shore and stuff, and just weird stuff like that. Growing up in Florida, I've always been interested in, you know, sharks and if there is like sea creatures out there and stuff like that, because, you know, we'd go to the beach and I don't know. But I've always found it interesting. But so he passed away. His name was Scott Mardis. And the last episode that he put out, so yeah, I don't know, man. And let me go back a little bit, but I feel bad. His name's Wolf, Josh Turner, and I've shouted him out before, because I swear, I don't know what is going on, but this poor dude has had nothing but bad luck. Like, this Scott Mardis dude died, which was his friend, and they were like close enough to where they'd sit there and talk for hours and shit. His mother died earlier this year. I don't know, it's just, she died of like brain cancer. That's actually why I bought this shirt. I felt bad for him, you know. He had been struggling financially. Like, he has a job, a full-time job, which is a security guard. He runs his own company. He wasn't struggling financially, but he was actually losing money by doing the podcast, you know, just not selling enough merch, keeping the lights on for the studio, you know. So like I was like, fuck it, I've been listening to him for a year now. You know, he's struggling. He's given me literally hours and hours and hours of entertainment for free. Like, I'm gonna buy a t-shirt, you know, because people think like oh, I'm gonna get into podcasting, I'll make money off that. And it's like, you ain't gonna make shit. You're gonna end up losing money. You know, it's fun to do it. It's, to me, it's like, it's my art, you know. And I also feel where this is a conspiracy channel, like the heavier hitting episodes, I feel like, to me, it's like a duty to warn the people, get the info out there, just let them know. So, I mean, when shit hits the fan, it's like, at least I can say, I tried to tell you, you know. And I also do the funner episodes to just try to make it enjoyable. But, so I don't know, I mean, I don't know what you guys believe. We got some people who are fans who are Christians. We got some who are into witchcraft, you know. Some who probably aren't spiritual at all, but just keep them in your memories and prayers and stuff, you know. And the Mardis family, because that sucks. But yeah, I try to give channel shout outs too, so check them out. If you like this stuff, you'll love them. And they get like a lot of good guests and shit on there, like average Joes like me and you, and then he gets like people who've written books and done documentaries. And but I'll get back to them. I'm gonna share this first story first. Now, this is technically a third-hand account. So we got this guy that he doesn't work for the company that I work for, but he works for like some sort of cookie company, like Oreos or something like that, or Keebler. And I stock the cookie aisle at work, so he came in and I was wearing a Mothman shirt, and he's like, oh man, you like that type of stuff? And I was like, yeah, I love it, man. I said I love anything like paranormal, conspiracy, cryptozoology. I might give him a flyer and see if he checks the channel out. But yeah, so me and him were just kind of talking like crypto stuff, you know, like different cryptids and all that. And then he came in another night later on, and I don't know, like I could tell, like I could get along with the dude. He was a real chill dude. He's got long hair like me. He's got tattoos all over. If I'm not mistaken, they're all like occultic tattoos and stuff, like a pinnacle and stuff like that. So I was like, dude, I could see me chilling and hanging out with this dude. But he came up to me again. He's like, hey, what's up, man? You know, remember how we were talking about cryptids and paranormal stuff? And I was like, yeah. He said, so I'll share you a story. And I'm like, all right, cool. You know, I love that shit. He said, now this is a second-hand account. He said, but this is from my mother. So, I mean, he said, I believe my mom. You know, my mom, she's like, I think he said they weren't really too religious or anything. They're just kind of like a normal, like, family. He said that she doesn't drink, she doesn't do drugs. You know, like, she's a sweet woman. She listens to metal. He did say that. She listens to metal, but you couldn't tell. He said, she's the type of woman, like, you'd see her out and about, and, you know, like, a young kid might be like, oh, she looks sweet, I'm gonna take advantage of her and say something smart. And he said, but she can be feisty. She's super nice, super sweet, super quiet, but if you piss her off, she'll cuss you out, you know. So I thought that was funny. But anyways, so the area that this happened in is in Kentucky, and it's off of Harrodsburg Road. So if anyone listening is a local listener, let me know. And it's near a creek. And they changed, it's obviously not the official name of the creek, but back in the day, and this was back in like the 60s, I think he said it was. Because she was driving at the time One of those big, taller, longer, wider. It was like a 62 or 63. He couldn't remember the year exactly. Chevrolet. So a beautiful classic car, you know. So she was driving. At the time, okay, yeah. They called it Schitt's Creek. The locals called it Schitt's Creek, and it's off of Harrodsburg Road, around Lexington, Kentucky. So that gives you a whereabouts. The locals call it Schitt's Creek. So I don't know if anyone's an old listener. If you know, hit me in the comments on YouTube. But anyways, he said that she always would take his dad to work. So she was driving, and she took him to work, and she was driving these like curvy ass country roads. Schitt's Creek was out in the country, and she thought at first what she saw was basically just some crazy naked man out in the middle of the woods. And she was a nurse, so I guess they would carpool. He worked nights, so he would, because it was nighttime, so she would drop him off, and then she would go to work. And she, being a nurse, took a Hippocratic oath, which they don't do that anymore, which is insane and fishy as hell. I am a conspiracy theorist, so like for me it's kind of weird the timing that they stopped doing the Hippocratic oath, and you know that you're not supposed to harm your patient and stuff like that, and then all this weird beer bug stuff is happening right now. I don't know. I was just putting two and two together in my head, because they stopped doing the Hippocratic oath, I think, like a couple of years ago, which is real fishy. But being a nurse, she's like, oh, this naked person is like, either needs help like physically, maybe he's been robbed, or he's like mentally ill, you know. And she's like, I'm a nurse, I work at a hospital, you know. I'm sure she's worked in like the mental wing, and you know, so she's like, I got this. So she drove up to him and parked the car. Well, no, not even parked the car. She was just slowly driving up to him. And he said that, I guess like in like the 1962, 63 Chevrolets, he said it, or it's an older car, like there was a foot pedal on the bottom near where the gas and brake and stuff are, and the clutch and stuff. And he said that back in the day you would hit like another pedal, and that would make the brights come on. So she hit the brights, and he was literally hanging over the car, and she could see his arm, and he was looking down on her. And he said, dude, an old Chevy car, like they're a lot taller than like these like shrimpy cars that, you know, like I'm driving that we got today, you know. Cars back then were just made taller and wider and longer, you know. So the top of the car was probably like, I don't know, I'd say probably like 5 foot, you know. Maybe about as tall. Yeah, about 5 foot something. And she estimated that this thing was literally 9 foot tall. She estimated that this thing was 9 foot tall. And as soon as she turned on the brights and seen it, and seen that it was a Bigfoot, and back then he said too that they didn't even have names for Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Well, Sasquatch is a Native American name, but Bigfoot had not become popular, or no one had really, you know, the Patterson-Gimlin footage had not come out yet. No one had started writing books on it. I'm sure people had seen him, but they used to probably just be like, it was a monster, you know, because that's the way she described it. She didn't even have a name for it. She just said it was a monster. So that shows you how far back this goes. She said as soon as she turned the brights on, this Sasquatch just basically turned around and just walked into the woods. But as soon as it turned around and started walking away, she just peeled out and floored it. And he said that she's like a pretty strong woman, that she's not the type to like cry or get emotional too much, you know, like she's a tough woman. And he said that she flew like 90 miles an hour down a curvy country road all the way to like her mom's house, and basically just like busted through the door and was like freaking out, screaming, crying, was like, oh my God, you're not gonna believe me, you're gonna think I'm crazy, I just seen a monster in the woods. So there you go. That's the Sasquatch of Schitt's Creek. It makes me want to find it because me and my wife, you know, we've only been squatching once at Land Between the Lakes. We've done a little bit of crypto hunting. Like we searched for the sea monster, the pig-faced sea monster of Harrington Lake. That's over near Bergen, Kentucky. We've looked for Dogman and Sasquatch and Land Between the Lakes, because apparently both are out there. We didn't find nothing for either of those, but it's just fun to go and fun to scratch it off your list. And you know, we like looking for cryptids, we like ghost hunting. There's all those sorts of videos on my old channel on YouTube. The old channel is just called Abe Williams, and profile picture is a sideways dream catcher. But the reason why I brought up Paranormal Roundtable was he put out his last episode. He put out was called Brazilian Exorcist. Hang on a second, I'm gonna light another cigarette, so you'll have to excuse a little bit of white noise. The last episode he put out was called Brazilian Exorcist. And I'm obviously not going to share the entire story because it's his story, that he actually had spoke to one of the girls who was in this whole situation. And I don't feel it'd be right to obviously tell you guys the entire story because I can't remember all the details off my head. I would butcher it, and it would honestly ruin it. So it'd be better to just go check the actual whole story out if you're interested. That, and I feel like I would be stealing, and I don't like stealing. I've had Rex Bear stole one of my videos from me. Like literally, I've made a video of like, yeah, that's a whole long story. But yeah, I got a video stolen from me and it don't feel too cool. But yeah, it was basically about this girl who had gotten possessed, you know, and she could perform all this crazy shit, like super strength. She could slightly transform. She could hop up on a wall like and hang there like Spider-Man. She could levitate. But the reason I'm bringing this up is one of the things that she could do was she went out to meet this exorcist who was supposed to exorcise her, and she pulled out a cigarette and it just lit by itself. And I don't know, it's just crazy. And the exorcist like did something and it literally put the cigarette out. He like, you know, like did his Jesus stuff, you know. And then there was another part of the story. The same girl she was a witch, dabbling in some form of like Brazilian black magic. She was smoking a cigarette with one of her neighbors, and they were both smoking cigarettes, and he didn't know. He had just met her, he had just moved in, so he just thought, hey, I'm out here smoking, you know. They had like a little, I guess like a stoop, you know. And you know, I lived in a duplex where my neighbor was a smoker, so we'd go out and we'd sit there and smoke together and talk and shit. So they're sitting there smoking and talking, and she gets this like creepy look in her eyes, and all of a sudden he said he had like a full cigarette like this, and it went from that all the way to the butt in like 2 seconds without him even dragging on it. And he basically just put his cigarette out, and it got freaked out and like went back in the house and was like, nah, fuck that. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is back in high school, I used to hang out with a group of guys. One of them was my best friend. We had a falling out, which is a whole another big story, but we used to run around, you know, smoke weed. We'd go into abandoned houses and shit and do witchcraft and hang out in graveyards. At one point, he was the bassist for my band, Vicious Fist, which was like a horror punk band. So, I mean, we were doing normal shit that like horror punks would do. But it was my best friend, this dude named Ethan King, which he turned out to be a piece of shit later in life. Like, he ended up going to prison because he broke this girl's leg, and it was a girl that he was supposed to be watching, and it was like a baby, you know. And the cops showed up, and his story kept changing, so he went to prison, and he came out of prison and came through the McDonald's drive-thru one time when I was working, and I was like, oh, hey, what's up, man? And he's just like, what's up? It's like, you know, I know what you did, you know, like, I didn't say this, but I'm thinking it, like, I know what you did. You did the crime, you did the time, you know, like, I just saying, hey, I'm not gonna ignore you, you know. Yeah, and then he came back in, because I guess we fucked his order up, and he got rude with me, and I was just like, wow, okay, fuck you, dude. But it was Ethan King, and I don't care to share him because his name, because he's a jerk. My best friend at the time, Cody, and this dude named Wiley. And they had, there was a guy that lived next to Ethan King, because Ethan King was like our age in like high school, and I kid you not, like, he was dating a chick who was like probably like 35. But yeah, it was crazy. we weren't gonna say nothing. We were just like, attaboy. But they had a neighbor, because he lived with her, and this dude had like crazy creepy eyes, you know. And he had said, they said he was just a real creepy dude. Like, I don't know, there was just something off about him. You could feel like an energy around him. And he had like super pale, super creepy eyes. I think they said he had like long black hair. He was kind of like gothed out, you know. And the dude was telling them a story. And I guess Wiley and Cody were there too. And the dude was saying, I sold my soul to the devil. And they're like, they said that, and they said like, well, what'd you sell your soul for? And he said, well, I can't tell you that, but I do have like special powers now. And they were just kind of like, there's no fucking way, dude, you sold your soul to the devil and you got special powers. And he said, okay. So he takes out his pack of cigarettes, and they're all like sitting around, standing around, you know, outside talking. Takes the cigarette out, and he squats down, and he puts the cigarette up to the ground, and it starts smoking, and then it starts like an ember, and then legit like a flame pops up, like a lighter flame, and then he pulls it back and just starts smoking it. And they're like, how the fuck did you do that? Like they're trying to debunk it, like you had to have had a lighter or something in your hand. And he's like, no, you know, I ain't got shit in my hands. I ain't got long sleeves on. I'm wearing a t-shirt, you know. And he said, I told you guys, I sold my soul to the devil. And he said, like, you know, I'm not going to tell you what I sold it for, but now I do. He said, when someone sells their soul to the devil, as long as they do, I guess, like something, whatever the devil wants them to do, you know, they get their wish is granted, but they also get like special powers, you know. That was the only power that he displayed to them. They didn't say what other powers the dude had, but yeah, that, when I was listening to that podcast last night, though, well, the night before, of Paranormal Roundtable, it reminded me of that, and I'm like, oh, I've never shared that story on my podcast. So it kind of worked out. The dude at work told me his mom's story, and then I heard that podcast literally the same night, and I'm like, dude, I got to put out a Drivecast episode, just kind of retelling these stories, you know. There you go, guys. I put a episode out. I recorded it last night heading to work. It's just some social commentary that me and my wife had talked about it several times, about toxic masculinity and how basically we don't believe in it. I mean, I believe in it, the word, and the meaning. I just don't believe in the social justice meaning of toxic masculinity. I believe that, yeah, you could say there's toxic men out there and that show toxic masculinity, but it's not the same as the social justice, you know, lefty version of it. And basically it was just some social commentary. It's the episode before this. I think it was episode 119. This will be episode 120. So check that out. So there you go. You got 2 new episodes to listen from me today. I'm gonna get this uploaded when I get home. I'm almost home. But I guess if you guys want, you can find us on Facebook. We are suspended on Facebook. I'm not sure if you know, when I'm getting it back or whatever, but you can contact us on Facebook, send us a friend request. If you guys want to share a story, you can friend me on Facebook, and then you can actually send the story to me through Facebook. I can't remember our email off the top of my head. If you're an audio listener only, you can check us out on YouTube. You can kind of put a face to a voice, and you can subscribe. It's Conspiracy Corner Podcast, and our profile picture is a bunny rabbit with a samurai sword. It's hand-drawn. If you're a subscriber on YouTube and you want to support us financially in any way, you can check us out on audio only. If you listen to us on audio only, it saves your battery. So if you're listening while you're working, it saves your battery. And my sponsor, Anchor, we get paid like a penny an episode. So you can listen to us on Breaker, Spotify, Google Podcast, Radio Public, and I think that's it. But that's all I got for you all. You all have a good day, and thanks for tuning in.